Welcome to Local Edition. I'm Tracy Young. Our guest is Louie Lujan. He's the mayor of the city of La Puente. He joins us to discuss how the state budget deficit that is estimated to be upwards of $24 billion for fiscal year 2009-2010 is affecting city budgets. Good to have you with us, Mayor.
Thank you for having me back.
It seems like every time I pick up the numbers or I get a new report from the controller, from the governor, we started at 20 and then we're saying 21. Now we're thinking it could be as high as a $24 billion budget deficit. How might that impact cities?
Well, the voters sent a clear message when they rejected the initiatives, and that message was that the state and local governments are to live within their means. Now, because the message that they sent was clear, as state and local government, we got to be a lot more creative in not only how we propose cuts, but also how we raise revenue. So it's going to be very challenging times ahead. When
you say sent a clear message, was that because they basically said no thank you to 5 of the 6, and of those 5, it was basically no by a 2-to-1 margin? Is that why you're making that comment?
Absolutely. There's the voters, in my opinion, are frustrated, and rightfully so. Now, what many voters or many people may not realize, though, are the consequences of the rejection of the initiatives. Again, that means on a local level, at least, we've got to be extremely creative, cautious at the same time, but also smart in how we not only raise revenue, but look at cuts.
The last number I heard, too, is that the governor's at least proposing, and he's kind of putting everything on the table, is that he might retain $2 billion of local property taxes with the state to try and balance the budget. Any idea how much your city might lose if that goes through?
Well, we're currently working to try to figure out the exact dollar amount, but what I do know is that it's going to be painful to us, because essentially what it is local governments become the piggy bank, if you will, for the state to come in and take our funds. And we're doing the best we can to work with the League of California Cities as a unified voice in preventing that from happening.
As you go through your budgets, many mayors or city council people that I've spoken with have all said, look, we saw this coming down the road. We saw the economy starting to turn. Our revenues had already begun to drop. So over the last 2 fiscal years, we already began cuts. We don't know where we'll go now. We're down to basically the bones. What's happened in your city?
Yeah, we started this process 2 years ago as well.
Too.
We forecast, and we knew there was rough waters ahead. So we looked at everything we can cut. We looked at revenues that we can raise. We, in a sense, were creative in doing so. But the tough times lay ahead. I mean, we've cut as much as we can possibly cut. We've raised revenues as much as we can possibly raise them. So it's going to be difficult to see what we do next. It's a challenge that can be dealt with. It's just going to require us to be extremely, extremely creative.
I've seen cities around the Southland who said that. They said, okay, look, we're going to have to find other revenues. And they've decided to do things like raise either the user utility tax or raise sales tax, because what they're saying is at least those dollars, if a city person has to pay more, it's retained within that city. They feel like they have control. Are you hearing more talk about those kinds of areas?
Well, you're right. A lot more cities are proposing those. The challenge, of course, is that statewide, since the voters rejected initiatives, going back to the voters,
taxes.
Right, and going back to the voters and saying, well, you didn't do it on a statewide level. Can you do it in your own community? It's tough going back to the same voters and asking them to do essentially the same thing twice.
They said no thank you to the state.
Correct.
I noticed in your city you have things like a free summer lunch program, which I know it helps kids basically during the summertime when they're not in school getting those programs. Are these kinds of programs what are possibly at jeopardy?
Unfortunately, everything's on the table. We have a very generous program in our community for the youth, for seniors, bus passes and everything. But because of the fiscal situation we're in, everything is on the table.
How can we end on a positive note of this? Somehow we will come out better people. I guess I'm trying to think on the bright side.
Well, I like to look at it like this. These challenges were created by us, meaning people. And as local elected leaders and as state elected leaders, if we work together, I really believe we can overcome the challenges. But we have to really sit down and realize that these are challenges and the tough times lie ahead, but we can get over them.
But if we have a leaner government, might we end up being poised better for the 21st century?
We all have to realize that living within our means is possible.
Okay.
It's just a tough thing to do.
It is, isn't it? All right. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
For Local Edition, I'm Tracy Young. Now back to CNN Headline News.